Our top story this morning is from Kerala. A red alert has been issued in 6 districts across Kerala as rains ravage the state. Intense rains led to flash floods and landslides across the southern state on Saturday, leading to the death of at least 6 people. Around a dozen people were reported missing as well. Kottayam is the worst hit district after receiving 148 millimeters of rainfall since 8:30 a.m. on Saturday, leading to the death of at least 4 people. 4 landslides were reported in various parts of the district as many waited to be rescued. In many areas, heavy rainfall led to water levels rising to the roof of homes and shops and bridges submerged underwater. Multiple teams of the NDRF, Army and Navy have been pressed into rescue missions as towns are flooded and residents have to be relocated to safer places. My colleague Ashutosh is now joining me live from, in fact, Ernakulam. Ashutosh, what is the ground situation right now? We believe that Kottayam is one of the worst hit districts, but there have been reports of landslides and flash flooding from elsewhere as well in the state of Kerala, southern and central parts.
Well, Polemy, reportedly 6 people died alone in Kottayam district, and however the toll could be even more as the agencies, civic agencies, the rescue agencies, rescue forces are on the operation. In fact, the helicopters were called in Kottayam to evacuate people, to airlift people, but because of the weather disruption that could not certainly take place. At the moment, Ernakulam, while I'm traveling to Kottayam, this explains the furious river, explains the gravity of this situation. While, the state, the southern state, battling with this, the monsoon, when it's turning back kind of calamity it is bringing along with, particularly in the district like Kottayam, Idukki and nearby all these districts, and also risking people, those who are living, along with this embankment and the embankment of the such rivers. So, could you just explain me कब से ये situation बिगड़ी है और कितना रिस्की है आप लोगों के लिए यहाँ रिवर साइड पर रहना, और अभी कितना बेटर हुआ है सिचुएशन?
बहुत रिस्क है, वो उधर मुश्किल है, उधर पानी आएगा, वो उधर स्कूल का वो स्टे इधर से वो पानी मिलेगा, वो पूरा आदमी इधर वो 16 पीपल है.
तो वाटर लेवल बढ़ा है या कम हुआ है?
अभी कम है.
ओके.
वो कल रात का वो पूरा पानी बहुत मुश्किल है.
So locals are explaining that water level in fact was more than 2 to 3 feet up to this point, and now it has still though reduced in certain areas, but still in places like Idukki and other there is a heavy rainpours continue, and this is kind of the situation is bringing, particularly in 2 districts where the NDRF, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, everything has not only been put on standby, but also all efforts are being taken, particularly from the worst affected areas, to evacuate people. Several places landslides are also being reported, and heavy rain shower clearly now disrupting even the rescue operation. In fact, the NDRF in Kottayam, one of such pocket where they were bringing their machinery with the heavy vehicles, the bridge is now submerged completely. So that's kind of the issues and problems coming in the way for these agencies who are carrying out the operations in the worst affected areas of the southern state. Polemy.
Well, we hope that the rains subside in Kerala and the rescue operations are carried out smoothly over there. Ashutosh, thank you so much for bringing us all of those details. Shifting focus, probe widens in the Singhu border murder case. Cops have made their second arrest in the case. Narayan Singh, one of the Nihang community, was arrested from Amritsar yesterday. 2 more men from the Nihang community, Bhagwan Singh and Govind Singh, have surrendered before the Haryana police. The police have detained them and initiated their interrogation. While accused Sarabjit Singh has been sent to a 7-day-long police custody, who in fact named 4 other people responsible for the brutal killing of 35-year-old Lakhbir Singh at the Singhu border on October 15. The deceased post-mortem reports suggest that multiple weapons were used, including sharp-edged objects and lathis, which led to 37 injury marks on his body, while hemorrhage and shock due to blunt injuries have been detected as cause of death. The Samyukt Kisan Morcha has distanced itself from the accused, condemning the violence. The Kisan unions have demanded a probe into the alleged conspiracy to sabotage the farmer agitation.
नारायण सिंह वहाँ से फरार था. आज सुबह हमें पंजाब पुलिस को इन्फॉर्मेशन मिली कि इसका गांव जो है थाना जंडियाला में है, ये हमने पता लगा लिया कि ही समवेयर इन द विलेज ओनली। हमने वहाँ पे फोर्स इसके घर पे भी इसके आसपास सारे लगा दी कि हमारा ऑपरेशन कामयाब रहा। हमने इनको आज 4 बजे के आसपास इनके गांव के गुरुद्वारा के बाहर से गिरफ्तार कर लिया। जब इनको पता चल गया कि मैं कहीं नहीं जा सकता तो ही केम आउट।
पूरी तरह ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹਦੀ ਹੱਤਿਆ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਉਹਦੀ ਨਿੰਦਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਵੇ ਉਨੀ ਥੋੜੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਨਾ ਤੱਕ ਤੇ ਹਿੰਦੁਸਤਾਨੀ ਸੱਭਿਆਚਾਰਕਤਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਨਾ ਹੀ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਜਾਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀਅਤ ਦਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹਨੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਘਟਨਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਰੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਵਾਸੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਸਿਰ ਝੁਕਿਆ ਹੈ।
किसान आंदोलन हिंसा की चपेट में आ गया। वहाँ लड़की के साथ गैंग रेप है, वहाँ पर हत्या है, अभी तो इतनी बुरी तरह से हत्या है, जनता दुखी है। यह जो एक हिंसा का और जघन्य अपराधों का और वहाँ जगह बनती चली जा रही है, इनसे किसान नेताओं ने किनारा करके और दूरी करनी चाहिए, वहाँ से उनको सबको बाहर करना चाहिए।
My colleague Shreya Chatterjee is now joining me live from Delhi on this. Good morning to you, Shreya. What is the latest in terms of the progress in the investigation that's ongoing?
Well, so far 4 people have already come into the circle of the police's interrogation. Now, one was initially arrested, Sarabjit Singh, who's been sent for 7 days police custody yesterday by the Sonipat District Court. In the second, which is Baba Narayan Singh, he was picked up by the Amritsar police. 2 more surrendered in Kundli before the Haryana police yesterday night, and their questioning is also underway. Now, the police believes that there could be further more people who could be nabbed in this particular connection, is why they want to visit places in Punjab, especially Gurdaspur as well as Chamkaur. The same was said before the court yesterday by the IO who's been investigating the case. Interestingly, the family members have been alleging conspiracy, stating they do not make it 2 + 2 how, as Lakhbir Singh reached the spot and was with the Nihangs. Now, that is also something that the police will be investigating, and likely they will also be speaking with the family members of Lakhbir Singh, is why there could be multiple visits made by the Haryana police to Punjab, and that's exactly why they sought 14 days of remand initially.
Right. Shreya, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed with the progress in that investigation. Terrorists continue to target innocent civilians in the Kashmir Valley. In the latest incident of jihadi killings, 2 migrant civilians were killed within hours in the valley. A 30-year-old Golgappa seller from Bihar was shot dead in Srinagar, while another civilian, Sagir Ahmed from Uttar Pradesh's Saharanpur, who worked as a carpenter, was shot dead in Pulwama. Arvind Kumar was killed in the same area in Srinagar, where 2 non-Kashmiri teachers were killed on October 7. A total of 7 innocent civilians have lost their lives in recent attacks by terrorists. Jammu and Kashmir has seen a spurt in targeted attacks on civilians in recent days. Now, this comes on a day when IG Kashmir had stated that 13 terrorists were killed in 9 encounters after civilian killings. The family is mourning the demise of Sagir Ahmed, who was shot dead by terrorists last evening in Pulwama. He was from UP's Saharanpur and worked as a carpenter in Kashmir's Pulwama.
हमारे बड़े भाई थे वो, और कोरोना की वजह से, कारोबार की वजह से 1 साल से वहाँ काम कर रहे थे। छोटे छोटे बहुत उनके बच्चे हैं और 4 लड़के हैं जी। कारोबार की वजह से, परेशानी की वजह से वहाँ काम करने गए, और कम से कम इन बच्चों के छोटे छोटे बहन भाई हैं, उनके छोटे छोटे बच्चे हैं, उनके लिए कुछ सुविधा होनी चाहिए पैसे की।
केंद्र सरकार का जो दावा है कि उसने आतंकवाद ख़त्म कर दिया है, इससे ये साबित होता है कि उसके दावे जो हैं वो खोखले साबित होते हैं। इसके लिए केंद्र सरकार को अपनी नीतियों पे दोबारा विचार करना होगा, और कश्मीर में आतंकवाद ख़त्म करने के लिए जो भी सरकार को सख्त कदम उठाने चाहिए वो उसको उठाने चाहिए। और हम MP साहब की तरफ से ये मांग करते हैं कि इस परिवार को मुआवजा मिले।
Staying with Kashmir, 2 more army personnel were killed during a counter-terrorist operation in Mendhar in Poonch district of Jammu and Kashmir. The army toll in the operation that began on Monday has now risen to 9. Here's the news report.
9 bravehearts of the Indian Army laid down their lives fighting terror in Jammu and Kashmir's Poonch and Rajouri districts since Monday. Subedar Ajay Singh and Naik Harendra Singh were part of a search operation in Poonch district's Narkhas forest. 2 days after the operations were conducted, their bodies were recovered on Saturday evening. Rifleman Vikram Singh Negi and Rifleman Yogambar Singh were also part of the Narkhas search operation. They were critically injured in the exchange of fire and later succumbed to their injuries on October 15th. A Gallantry Award winner, Naib Subedar Jaswinder Singh, was awarded the Sena Medal for his role in killing 3 terrorists in Kashmir in 2006. Days away from a memorial ceremony for his late father, the 39-year-old fell to terrorist bullets in Poonch. Both his brothers are retired army veterans and are proud of his sacrifice.
ਸਾਡਾ ਤਾਂ ਲੱਕ ਟੁੱਟ ਗਿਆ ਲੇਕਿਨ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਾਣ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਇਲਾਕੇ ਦਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਉੱਚਾ ਕਰ ਗਿਆ
30-year-old Naik Mandeep Singh from Gurdaspur in Punjab last visited home 18 months ago. Naik Singh finally returned home wrapped in the tricolour. Sepoy Sarat Singh, a new father, was also killed in action in anti-terror operations. His family will receive the rupees 50 lakh ex gratia and a government job has been announced by Punjab government for each fallen soldier's family. Sepoy Gajan Singh from Punjab enrolled in the Sikh regiment when he was just 22 years old. Sepoy Singh got married 7 months ago and his 10-day leave to visit home had already been sanctioned. His wife says terrorists will be given a befitting reply.
मारना चाहिए उनको मारना चाहिए एक एक नहीं सारे नो उत्थे दे लोग नहीं ना साथ देंदे लोग साथ देवे ना तातवादी खत्म हो जावे.
Sepoy Vaishak from Kerala was also killed in action in the Poonch encounter. He was laid to rest in his native place, Kottayam in Kollam district. As terror continues to bleed India, our brave soldiers remain undeterred and ready to defend and protect our borders at any cost. Bureau Report, India Today.
India has proposed to host an in-person meet of the National Security Advisors on Afghanistan in Delhi in November. All key stakeholders, including Russia, China and Pakistan, have been invited to the meet. 2 dates, 10th and the 11th of November, have been proposed for the meeting in the national capital. The invitation has been extended to Pakistan's NSA Moeed Yusuf at a time when there is increased tension at the border between the two countries. Meanwhile, India will participate in the Moscow format meeting on Afghanistan on October 20th. India had its first formal contact with the Taliban in Doha on August 31st. The Moscow format is likely to be the first formal contact between New Delhi and the Taliban government after an interim cabinet was announced by the latter. Multiple incidents of mob violence against the Hindu minority were reported in Bangladesh during the Durga Puja celebration. Several incidents of attacks on puja pandals and idols were reported in the country. Several from the Hindu community took to the streets to protest against the violence, killing 5 people. The dead body of ISKCON member Partho Das was found in a pond next to a temple after he was allegedly murdered. Security personnel have been deployed in several parts of the country as multiple cases of brutal violence have come to light. ISKCON Temple Board has demanded swift action from the Bangladesh government into the killings of its devotees. Across the border, Senior TMC Minister Firhad Hakim has condemned the violence and called for action. Earlier, Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, while assuring Hindus in the country, gave a stern warning to those trying to disturb communal harmony in Bangladesh.
আমরা অবস্থান করছি আন্তর্জাতিক কৃষ্ণ ভাবনামৃত সংঘ ইসকন নোয়াখালীতে। এখানে একদল সন্ত্রাসী বাহিনী এসে আমাদের পুরো মন্দির, রথ, মন্দিরের গাড়ি, প্রভুপাদের বিগ্রহ থেকে শুরু করে 2 জন ভক্তকে মেরে ফেলেছে এবং 3 জন ভক্ত হাসপাতালে চিকিৎসাধীন অবস্থা আছে।
বিশ্বাস করি যে হাসিনা সরকার ধর্মনিরপেক্ষ সরকার, তারা নিশ্চিতভাবে যথাযথ এর অ্যাকশন নেবে।
In this case also India must interfere, but having respect for the sovereignty of Bangladesh, having respect for the dignity of their Prime Minister, who is a friend of India as well as a friend of Hindus. India must extend necessary help to Sheikh Hasina to ensure that Hindus can live in Bangladesh in peace without fear of persecution.
Welcome back. Sonia Gandhi gives loud and clear message to G23 leaders. Congress's interim party president gave a stern warning to the dissenters while cautioning them not to speak to her through the media. She further said that the Congress will soon have internal polls.
राहुल जी को अध्यक्ष बनाने की मांग उठी। आप चाहते हैं कि राहुल जी भी अध्यक्ष हो? लोगों के जो आप लोगों के जो
The bid to revive the grand old party, the Gandhis' attempt to craft a new Congress. The Congress Working Committee meet was held to diffuse tension, dissent, the implosion and unending chaos in the grand old party. Sonia Gandhi, the interim president, had a lot on her plate as she chaired the crucial Congress meet on Saturday. But first on her agenda was a dressing down to the party's critics, the very vocal rebel G23 leaders. Sonia Gandhi reminded the dissenters that she was a full-time and hands-on Congress president, contrary to their allegations. And no issue of public importance had been ignored by the grand old party, she said. Sonia also sent out a stern warning to the G23 leaders, cautioning them not to speak to her through the media. Sonia's tough talk comes after repeated attacks from the G23, who've questioned the lack of a full-time president. The rebels, though, claimed all was well at the meeting.
जो भी है वो स्पोक्स पर्सन आप लोगों को अभी ब्रीफ करेंगे, आपको सब पता चल जाएगा। बहुत अच्छी मीटिंग हुई।
While the schedule for Congress Party's organizational polls was announced in June itself, it was delayed due to COVID restrictions. Now, the poll process has been rescheduled and Congress leadership has assured party members that it will be completed by September next year.
During the meeting, Sonia Gandhi also pointed out that there was a delay in the Congress presidential polls scheduled for July 2021 due to the COVID pandemic and said that the party was ready for internal polls and a roadmap would be out soon. And speaking of polls, Sonia also assured that the Congress was ready to take the fight to the BJP in the upcoming state elections in 5 states. But the highlight of her speech was loud and clear, especially to her critics. Don't take my silence to be the leadership's weakness.
The CWC was convened to discuss internal issues and cull dissent. But the Congress president made full use of the opportunity to train guns on Modi regime and set the tone for party's agenda for the upcoming assembly polls. With camera person Sanjay Kumar, this is Anand Patel in New Delhi for India Today.